Jeff Yalden. You blame it on the Don't blame it on the mirror.
Hey, my friends, Jeff Yalden here. I want to take some time to share with you why teens kill themselves. If you don't like the word that I use, kill or commit suicide, die by suicide, please forgive me. Let's kind of overlook that. And I want to invite you to use whatever choice of words that you want to use that you feel more comfortable with. The reason I'm saying why teens kill themselves is it's not even 12 noon. And I've had 3 phone calls this morning, and all 3 phone calls of a suicide on campus within the past 2 weeks. And these communities are all of a sudden thinking that this is a crisis. Okay. In my office and what I deal with, this is almost daily. I want to start this out with a disclaimer, basically saying that what I might talk about might trigger some emotions or feelings, and that's not a bad thing. I want you to know that we all have thoughts, and thoughts are just what they are. They're thoughts. Like an arm is an arm, a leg is a leg. Thoughts are thoughts. But feelings, we need to be able to talk about our feelings. Because what happens is if you hold on to your feelings and you keep it in and you feel like you can't express yourself, then it manifests, and at some point, what you can't speak out, you end up acting out. A good friend of mine, Dr. Alex Crosby from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they did a study and they decided to do some research on the brains of this population, white males 35 to 50, that is a very high suicide rate right now. And as they did their research, they discovered that the trauma from their adolescent years was never dealt with, or as males we're told, you suck it up, you be tough, we don't talk about or express our feelings. And what happens is, as you go through life, your responsibilities become greater, your obligations are bigger. And if you don't have coping skills or problem-solving skills, and you've kept it in for all these years, manifests and comes out, well, when you don't have the ability to think, reason, and act under pressure, sometimes you make a forever decision. And so that's why it's really important that stop. Thoughts are thoughts. Let's not make decisions based on emotion. Let's not make decisions on the here and the now. And understand our feelings as we're trying to understand why we feel this way. The hormones, our emotions, our body is changing. We're trying to figure out who we are. We're talking teenagers here. And teen mental health, I feel, is different today than it ever has. I think growing up is harder than it ever has. I think teaching and parenting is harder than it ever has. And there's a couple of reasons to that. And I want to keep this on why teens kill themselves. I can elaborate on other things later, as I feel like I'm starting to really need to. So getting to my point here, I think one of the biggest influences on a child's life since about 2012 has become the presence of a smartphone, their devices. I'm not going to social media, YouTube, internet, sure. Let's keep this focused on this. What is happening with these devices, it's pushing our youth to spend more time on the device and less time engaged in extracurricular activities such as school sports or school clubs or activities. And so I'm going to say this: the more time you spend alone on your device, remember, isolation is toxic. So a child comes home, they might have a snack, they go to their room, they feel like they can't talk. Our kids don't come home. Mom, Dad, I had a bad day. Do you think we can talk? No, they don't know how. They don't want to trouble you. They don't want you to fix it. They don't want to be a burden to you and the problems that you already have that they think is greater than theirs. So you're not going to pay too much attention. Or you're going to say, you're 14, 15, 16, 17. You shouldn't be thinking this way. Listen, if there are red flags that you think you need to address with your child or student, address them. We need to be comfortable talking. Do not self-diagnose the child yourself. Back to what I'm saying. The smartphone, the device, isolation is toxic. So when I talk to kids, I come to find out this is very common. I think the device is causing them to feel alone. They might not even be alone, they might be involved, but this alone feeling says to them that they don't have meaningful relationships. Think about it. The device and everything out there, friends. I want to send a friend request. These are superficial relationships. It's not heart to heart. It's not, hey, I really care about you. You can trust me. It's we're friends online. You see it all the time. Hey, I'm bored after work. Does anybody want to hang out? Hit me up. So very superficial, leading the child to feel like they don't have meaningful relationships. They live alone. They feel like they live alone. When I find that a child feels that they're living alone, very common, they feel like they're a disappointment. It might be a disappointment to themselves. It might be a disappointment to their parents. It might be a disappointment to their teachers, their friends, their coaches. And I often say, do you have a trusted, significant adult that you can reach out to? A lot of kids say, no. Why? And there's so many reasons why. Listen, don't try and fix a child's problems. Don't try and tell them how they're supposed to feel. Because what might not be big to you, for them, it's huge. And our kids are living in the here and the now. I don't think it's their fault. But think about it. In the past 10 years, you put a ATM card in the ATM, you get money out. You send a text to mom or dad or friend, you automatically get an instant response. You post a selfie, you get likes. Friends, life is not in the here and the now. But because of our young people living in the here and the now, I don't think they want to die. I think what they see is that the solution to their problems can't be taken care of here, today, now, this moment. And so they start to feel that you mean I got to put the phone down? You mean I got to wait? You mean I have to ignore it? You mean like it's going to go away in a week or two? I don't get. So they start to feel like they're a disappointment. Or they feel like they're a burden. I don't want to bring my problems to you because you have enough problems. Our kids see the brokenness in the world today and see you stressed and you having to deal with this and another sibling this or family that. They don't want to burden you with what they're going through because you might think that what they're going through, you don't have time or you don't think it's important enough. So watch this. I feel alone. I feel like I'm a disappointment. I feel like I'm a burden. This kind of says to them that I'm not making a notable contribution to the world. They start to feel like they don't want to burden you because they feel like not just that they don't make a notable contribution to the world, but to you, they feel like they're serving as this liability to you. So I used to go from I feel alone, disappointment, I don't want to trouble people, I'm not talking, I'm internalizing and keeping it in. So the question I used to want to ask is, so do you want to die? I don't ask that question yet because I think in the past probably 2-3 years, I've come to recognize this little dot, this red dot. This red dot here represents self-harm. Now, again, like I said earlier, what I'm about to talk about might trigger emotions, feelings, because what I'm about to say is going to make sense to some people that are engaging in self-harm. So, self-harm, like many of you that might be watching this, automatically are thinking about cutting. Well, self-harm is bigger than just cutting. It's self-medicating. It could be pulling your hair. It could be punching yourself. It could be picking scabs. It could be reckless behavior. It could be a number of things. I want to tell you a story. Early this fall, I was speaking at a college. And at that college, after my talk, a young man comes up to me. And the young man introduces himself. He was a senior. He was the captain of the football team. And he wanted to ask me a question about athletes smoking pot, and did I think there was something wrong with that? So to make a long story short, I gave him my 2 cents, and I said to him, could it be possible that you might be smoking pot because there might be something in your life that you're dealing with, emotions, feelings, family, girlfriend, graduating, overwhelmed, stressed, and smoking pot is making you feel that, okay, I don't have to deal with this right now. I can avoid, but then when you sober up, these problems. Before I even finished my question, he nodded his head and explained to me. And I said, that right there is the problem. I said, if you're using recreational drugs or drinking pot, pills, I don't know, to avoid what you should be dealing with, then that's how you're coping. And that's how you're problem solving. And if you continue that way, listen, you only know what you know. I said, that's where, and I asked this question, I said, if I could give you the same result that pot might be giving you, but I can do it in a more healthy way, I said, would you be interested in that? He said, well, yeah. So I talked to him about talking to somebody. Make a long story short, this is back in October. He's been in counseling on campus ever since, and I still stay in touch with him. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't think self-harm is necessarily a bad thing if you find that it's one of your kids or one of your students, one of your athletes, meaning I don't want you to react, because here's why. I think self-harm, when you find out about it, is good because it is your student or your child that is asking for help. They want some control. They want to get better. It's when I find that they have no feelings. I call that growing up dead. So self-harm, I want to send a signal saying, I'm not dealing with this in a healthy way. I need to talk to someone. So let's not react. Let's stop, breathe, think, reason, and act, because this is our child coming to us. They're asking for help. This is a defining moment right here. So why they want help, why they trust in you, how you respond is going to play a significant role in how they move forward from the pain that they're feeling. And if we don't get this taken care of, they will continue self-harming, coping in a negative way, unhealthy, and that could lead to, do you want to die? Let me tell you what this means. Do you want to die represents habituation to physiological pain and fearsome experiences, to repeated exposure to painful and provocative events. The more brokenness our families are, our communities are, their lives are, the more alone, isolation they feel, they want, the more of a disappointment burden. The alone, I'm leading to unhealthy thoughts, unhealthy behaviors. I'm not asking for help. This combined here could be a possible desire for wanting to end their life. And so if they don't know how to deal with their emotions, coping skills, problem solving skills, they don't feel they have trusted adults, relationships, that's the self-harm. This on the side is where they're growing up dead. The more they self-harm, the more I feel they're isolating themselves, taking it upon themselves. And the longer they do this, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, if nobody intervenes and gets them the help that they need, here's what happens then. Let's talk about cutting. Again, if this triggers an emotion, talk to somebody. You are not alone. You matter. People love you. And living with mental illness, I live with mental illness, is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm more present than I've ever been. I'm actually having more fun than I've ever had. And I think living with mental illness has really inspired me to have this purpose to share my heart with yours. But if you don't ask for help, what happens is we start cutting and it becomes very light. And one of the questions that I ask after this is, well, if you want to die, why haven't you done it yet? And I ask that because I want to know what their plan is, what they're thinking, how it might look. I want to be able to gauge where they are in the process of thinking that their life doesn't matter anymore. Because I want to know that, because I want to know what I need to do right now. One of the reasons kids give me that they don't want to die is they say that it would hurt too much. Another reason is they say, well, I couldn't do that to so-and-so, or my parents, or my little sister or brother. When our teens are cutting self-harm, what happens is the more they do it, the more tolerable the pain becomes. The more tolerable the pain becomes, that starts to answer, well, I couldn't do it because it would be too painful. If nobody intervenes, if nobody sees the signs that are present that this young person is hurting and asking for help, then we continue self-harm, self-medicating, reckless behavior. The signs, the symptoms, they're all there. Then they get to a point where the deeper they go, they break skin. And if they break skin, that's like an endorphin effect, the same, similar, that a runner gets running. And now all of a sudden they get this like high, but they also get this fear that, oh my gosh, I can't say no. What if people see it? Maybe my parents are going to overreact. What are people going to judge? What I'm concerned about is the more unhealthy their thoughts and their actions, they're not asking for help, then the more tolerable the pain, but the more they go, what happens is they start to justify. Remember, they're going down a path that is not healthy. Their thoughts become more unhealthy if nobody's intervening, if they stay this course. Then I'm afraid they start to justify that maybe people would be better off without them. And or if something significant happens to them, remember, what is significant to them might not be so significant to you, but to them it's significant. And when you're saving a life or talking about teen mental health, that is important. Know that's important. Living in the here and the now. Case in point, I leave you with this. One of the phone calls this morning was a young man here in the South. His parents had come into school to address a speeding ticket that he got last month. When he found out his parents had come into school, he decided to, can I go to the bathroom? He went out to the car in the parking lot and he decided to end his life. And as I was talking to administration this morning and the counselors, I come to find that this was a very good kid that showed no signs, that has never been in trouble before. And so I don't know, but one of the things that leads me to feel this way is if you've never been in trouble before, and now all of a sudden you feel that you've done something to really disappoint your parents and you have to face the consequences of something you've never had to face before. Again, maybe he thought it was the end of the world. He made a forever decision in the parking lot in front of the school. And so as I close, remember, you matter. Stop. Take time to think. Don't make decisions based on emotion when you're 16, 17 years old. Listen, we do make mistakes, and that's okay, because part of growing up is learning from your mistakes. And also I want to say something as I shared this with whoever might be watching. If you see something, say something. Because a lot of people are showing because they're reaching out, but they don't know how to. And as a friend, a teacher, a coach, a parent, you have a responsibility to do the right thing. If you know something, do something. You could be saving a life. I don't think teens want to die. I think they see the solution is out in the distance, that they can't solve it now. My friends, no matter what you're going through, it will be okay. You will get through this. Don't avoid it. Don't look to self-medicating. Self-harm, I want you to feel, I want you to have control, but you can get the same result by speaking to somebody and getting what you need versus taking your own hands, because that is going to lead you more down that unhealthy path and it'll be a longer road to recovery. My friends, in short, I thank you so much. I'm Jeff Yalden at jeffyalden.com. And if you're interested in me coming to speak in your community to your students, your teachers, and parents, check us out at jeffyalden.com. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.